Hey guys, this is P.M.R.Bonez88, and today for my next horror slasher movie review, which is Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, this movie was made and directed by Wes Craven, which he was also the director of The Hills Have Eyes, The Last House on the Left, and even before he directed like the Scream movies and Curse and all other movies that I've seen, and he is like the best horror director movie ever. And along with the producer Robert Shea, that they created this new horrifying and terror of a dream killer that comes out and haunting your dreams. And when I saw this movie, it gave me goosebumps. At first it scared me, and including with Freddy Krueger, the Springworth slasher / dream demon killer. He gave me like the total goosebump and terror. But I got used to watching this movie, and it was one of my favorite movies, and I have all of them. And the movie, however, came out in November 1984. So this movie starts out with the heroine named Tina, which is played by Amanda Wyss. She somehow goes into the boiler room, and she starts wandering, and all of a sudden Freddy starts haunting her. By the time she tries to get away from him, all of a sudden Freddy like goes behind her, starts striking her. All of a sudden she wakes up and realizes that her nightgown was all slashed. Her friends Nancy and Glenn, which they were played by Heather Langenkamp and Johnny Depp, which this was his first debut to his first movie, and before he became a big star. So Nancy, Tina, and Glenn, they hang out at her house, and until all of a sudden they heard a noise, and they go out to check to see what was that noise about. They go out and they check to see who it was. Could have been a cat or a dog or maybe a burglar. But pops out Tina's former boyfriend, Rod Lane, decides to crash into her house and hang out, and just like Nancy and Glenn wanted to leave, but Tina just like told them not to go anywhere, not to go, or just stay in just to keep her company even more. So they decide to just hang out at her house, and Tina all of a sudden hears a noise and just goes downstairs and see what was the noise about. At first she doesn't know who it is, but we can at least tell that's the voice of you-know-who. So she goes out wondering, see who it is and what's going on, but all of a sudden, guess who pops and shows up? The dream demon killer herself, Freddy. So the biggest scene ever was where Freddy just laughs and his arm stretches up. At first that freaked me out a little, but the laugh freaked me out even more. My heart was like beating, and seeing him coming closer to her. Biggest, craziest horror and scare, terrifying scene ever is where Tina rips Freddy's face, and all you see is his skeletal face itself, and laughing while she was all terrifying. By the time Rod Lane tries to wake Tina up, it was too late, and slashes her. And then she like floats up and screaming and bleeding, and just takes her, threw her right to the wall, and climbs her up to the ceiling, and then all of a sudden flats out dead. That was like the craziest horror scene ever, like falling down the bed and blood splashing right into your face. That was the most effects ever. And then meanwhile, Nancy feels really sorry and feels scared that now that Tina is dead, and they think that Rod Lane killed her, so the cops are looking for him. And then later that day, the cops find Rod Lane, and they think he did it. So during class, Nancy starts falling asleep, and then all of a sudden she wakes up and sees Tina in a body bag, but all full of blood, and she follows her, and her body was all dragging on way down to the boiler room, and that's where Freddy traps her. So she was the next target, and Freddy was going after her, and then all of a sudden she tries to find a way to wake herself up. So she finds a hot pipe, so she burned her arm with a burning pipe, and that was the only way so she could wake herself up. But I keep asking myself, is it possible that you could just like wake yourself up by burning yourself or cutting your own arm or something? Or even if you find a gun down at the desk or somewhere on the ground and just like shoot yourself just to wake yourself up? I mean, is it possible? I don't know, but this was a make-believe horror movie. So anyway, she goes to see Rod, and he tries to explain that he didn't really do all this, but Nancy still wanted to know, like, she wanted answers of what really happened during that night. And what happened, that Rod tries to tell that someone else was there somewhere in the room besides him and Tina. He realized that he was having the same dream with the same guy with the 4 razors on his right hand. And that's where she realizing that he was telling the truth and not lying. The bath scenes was really creepy, and Freddy's hand was like coming towards her, like he was reaching for her just to slash her. But this reminds me of now I'm not going to talk about the remake, but but there was like a similarity between the original and the remake, because both of them, they had the similarities to the scenes, some similarity lines, some similarity scenes they used, or some they try to at least make a little different than the original. But the original is like, however, the best. And compared with the original, I want to say they shouldn't have just left it alone. Let all the original Nightmare franchises alone and not make a remake, period. She was dragged down and almost drowned by her own bathtub, and that's where Freddy tried to get her, just to make her drown and suffocate. But she got out of there just in the nick of time, and her mother was there just in case something bad happened to her. Now, I'm not talking about this whole plot, this whole movie, not too much, but just to talk about is the visual effects. The visual effects were like amazing, and even so with where Tina was like upside down, actually she was like really like, they used the shot like some sort of a room like to move and see her like tumbling down, but she was like really going up on the wall, like climbing. Feel like that Freddy was like climbing her right up on the wall and right up to the ceiling, but she was really on the floor. But in the diagonal shot, she was like up on the floor, and realized that she thought she was like floating up on the ceiling. It was really effective and super effective, and they were really great, including with all the bloods and all the guts, and even with the burning details of his makeup. Freddy Krueger was played by Robert Englund. You know, he kind of at first he kind of reminded me of Robin Williams a bit. Maybe it's because with his smiling and maybe his nose a bit, but without the makeup, Robert Englund is Robert Englund. I always think of Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. And as Freddy Krueger, he made his killer like more imaginative and made him more comical a little bit, and even more darker to his own character. And to see him, he is this guy, not just a dream demon slashing killer. He's the guy that knows your secret. He's the guy that haunts you in your dreams. And he's the guy that just like wanders and follows you, hiding underneath the shadow, or finding you just to wait to the right time for a moment to strike. So he knows everything, like knows what you're afraid of, knows what your diary is, knows where you live, knows where you work, or maybe knows your school, or maybe knows about your friends or family or any other relative or relationships that you're with. Freddy, he is smart. He is not that dumb. Just to compare with Jason and Michael, and they're not so bright either, but for Freddy, he knows how to make a plan, knows how to figure out what you're afraid of and use it to against yourself, and even figure out a way to try to frame you. First one was definitely the best and definitely a classic. With Heather Langenkamp playing as Nancy Thompson, I think she did pretty good, just even with some of her dialogues of herself. At first, for her character, everyone that Nancy was really crazy. Or one of my favorite scenes ever is where Freddy brings Glenn dragging down to the bed, and all of a sudden all the blood like gushing out of his bed, like coming out like a pouring Kool-Aid. And then, but in the making of it, they pour it down. There was like blood pouring down on the floor, but up to the final cut, it was upside down, and there was like the blood gushing up on the ceiling. That was really great, and it was really super effective. And I did see the making of it, so making of this movie, it was like really effective, and my heart was like dropping down to my stomach, and my eyes just popped out, and seeing all the visual effects, and really kind of, at first it kind of scared me, but like making it a great horror movie, And I guess that's why Wes Craven just imagined that a burning monster terrorizing you in your dreams. So Nancy figures out a way to fight Freddy back in order to bring him to the real world. So Nancy tries to find Freddy into the boiler room and then tracks him down and brings him into the real world. So she fights back using all these weapons, and by the time the cops showed up, and including Nancy's father, they try to find him, but instead she goes upstairs and realizing that her mom was like being attacked by Freddy, all burned and catch on fire. But by the time her father left and Nancy was the only one that stopped Freddy, so she turned her back away from him, took away all his energy that she gave to him, and realizing that she was not afraid of him and saying, "You're nothing but your shit." So by the time Freddy disappears and walks out of the door, and the next day, which that was really effective and surprising, like goes on from one scene then up to the next, and then her mother came back and all her friends came back, but it was all just a dream. The whole thing was just a dream. It was a nightmare, and Freddy got them, but not really got them. She actually got Nancy just to lure her away, and then Freddy just captured her mother once again and sucked her right back into the house. So after done talking about this movie was really horrifying. It was really great, and it was like my #1 favorite movie. Well, besides that, it had all the Nightmare sequels, but some were good, some were okay, but really terrible. But the first one was the original and the classic movie ever, and it was my favorite, and I really enjoy it. But the first time when I saw this movie, at first it kind of scared me and gave me nightmares, but the more I watched it, the more I got used to it, and Freddy Krueger was like my most favorite horrifying pop icon. So just to rate this movie, I would have to give it a 99 out of 100. This film was really horrifying. This movie was great, and the storyline of it was really amazing, including the actors and actresses has good dialogues and talking about their background story, including Freddy, how he was before he became a dream demon. And I do have this movie on Blu-ray and DVD. By next week or the following week, I'll be going back and forth of my superhero movie reviews and my horror slasher movie reviews. So I'll be talking about, for my superhero movie review, that I'll be talking about is Watchmen. And this is P.M.R.Bonez88 signing off and saying is, peace!